What is going on, Only Playbook fans? We are back for another episode. Week 2 is over. Lots has happened, but we turn the page. We move on to week 3. Joining me today, second time returning guest. He was on, I think, maybe a year or two ago. Longtime Panther fan, Jake Flincham, coming onto the podcast here. Jake, how are you doing, man?
I mean, a lot better than the Panthers. So that's one thing that hasn't changed in the 2 years since we gotten together is we're still bad.
That is fair. I feel like you and I came into the season with a ton of optimism with Bryce Young, the drafting of, T-Mac, and just some potential for this team to take a step forward. But so far through 2 weeks, it just hasn't seemed as fluid as maybe you and I had hoped. You maybe more so than me. So pretty discouraging as a Vikings fan. Not the best for me either. So I can at least relate to some sense, but happy to have you on, man. I'm excited to talk about week 3. So without further ado, Jake, I'm going to run through week 2 anytime touchdown predictions. So we had 16 games, 16 predictions, ended up going 5-11. Not the best. The ones we hit on were David Montgomery at plus 130, Devon Achane minus 111, CMC minus 135, DK Metcalf, nice plus 150 hit, and Nico Collins on Monday night had a plus 145 smack. So 5 hits, 3 of them were plus money. Not terrible. But again, not as good as week 1. So let's turn the page. Now I have you to help me. We both get to pick a anytime touchdown bet per game. So hopefully that gives us better chances to actually smack one. Let's rapid fire these, Jake. Thursday Night Football starts tomorrow. We have the Dolphins traveling to Buffalo to take on the Bills. I think the Bills are going to dominate this game, so I am looking for a little off-the-wall pick here. James Cook's been dominant. Josh Allen's been dominant. I think in the red zone, there's going to be an opportunity for backup of James Cook, Ray Davis, to find the end zone. So I'm going to take Ray Davis at plus 425. I think James Cook's doing awesome. They may be up really, 2-3 scores in the fourth, and they could have the backup come in to get a garbage touchdown. So I just like that price. Who do you got this game?
I like that pick, actually, but I'm going with the other running back. So I like James Cook. He scored 21 touchdowns in 19 games last year, started the year with 3 already. A little bit of a juicy price. I mean, you're getting minus 160, but for a guy like James Cook against a terrible Miami defense,
how do you not, right? I mean, I have James Cook in my fantasy team this year, so I've been pretty ecstatic with the start with 3 touchdowns in 2 games. One of the biggest kind of headlines of fantasy football coming into the season was the potential regression of James Cook because of the outrageous amount of touchdowns he scored last year. And right now, doesn't seem like much regression, 3 through 2 weeks. So on a pretty insane pace. So I don't hate that. Let's go to Sunday, Jake. We have the first game on the slate. The Bengals are traveling to Minnesota to take on my Vikings. I think we have the same pick here. Jordan Mason is officially going to be RB1 on this offense for Minnesota. Aaron Jones is on the IR, so he's going to miss at least 4 weeks. They signed Cam Akers, 3rd stint with the Minnesota Vikings, but he's nothing more than a complimentary piece. Jordan Mason rumbling into the end zone, plus 125 at home. The Vikings trying to get right with Carson Wentz. I really like that price.
Yep, I'm right there with you on that one. Like you said, Carson Wentz just getting into the backfield. Probably going to be a run-heavy offense this week.
Yeah, I love that a lot. Packers-Browns traveling to Cleveland. Packers look insane to start the season. Defense looks incredible. One guy that I've been ecstatic about being on my team in fantasy football has been tight end Tucker Kraft. Scored last week, had a fantastic week. I want him to do it again, so I'm taking him plus 175 to find the end zone against this Browns defense.
Yep, I'm right there with you on this one as well. So I got to benefit from him in our Dynasty League. So he's been incredible. Packers really don't have a number 1 wide receiver. It's going to be Josh Jacobs or Tucker Kraft. I like the price a little bit better on Tucker Kraft this week, so I went that direction as well.
Doesn't it seem like the way he plays, and at least through 2 weeks, that, like you said, the lack of a true number 1 wide receiver option, like Tucker Kraft could end the season as easily a top 3 tight end and potentially cements himself into the top echelon with like the Trey McBrides and Brock Bowers. Like what I noticed in the first 2 weeks is the Packers can funnel an offense through Tucker Kraft and be successful. And I think that's really, really scary because, again, we all came into the season being like, they drafted Matthew Golden. They have a couple of, receivers that have been there for a couple of years. Who's going to take that step? But right now, is it crazy to say that Tucker Kraft could lead the team in receptions, yards, touchdowns when all is said and done?
Reminds me of kind of like a Harbaugh offense at Michigan, where you just run the football. You have Josh Jacobs in the backfield. He can handle a heavy workload. And then you find your tight ends when you have to. And Tucker Kraft's consistent, catches the football, has scored touchdowns in a couple of games this year already. I think he's going to keep it rolling.
Love that. Love that. Let's move it to Tennessee, where the Titans are hosting the 2-0 Indianapolis Colts, and Danny Dimes' resurgence season is upon us. I am looking for another tight end here. Your tight end, Jake. I want Tyler Warren to get his first touchdown of the season. Titans have a pretty good defense. Don't get me wrong. I think this could be kind of a little bit of a defensive battle, but Tyler Warren is so talented. I think they need to find a way to get him into the end zone. I talked about it coming into the season. He is somebody that they can actually utilize as a quarterback sneak, tush push type option player. So if they get into that situation, I would not be surprised if Tyler Warren gets it done. Again, 2 weeks in, hasn't found the end zone yet. So I'm just kind of banking on the probability there. And I want Tyler Warren to get in the end zone at plus 235.
Yeah. Speaking of Danny Dimes, actually going that route for my pick this week. So been running the ball really well. Titans do have a pretty good pass rush. So I think there's a probability he's flushed out of the pocket earlier than he would want to be. Could also benefit Tucker or Tyler Warren, where we see him get in the end zone. But I think we're going to see Danny Dimes have to use his legs a little bit more this week, kind of like he did in week 1. And maybe he sneaks out to the side, gives us a touchdown.
Dude, nothing.
And that's a plus 180.
Nothing gets my giddies going more than a quarterback rushing touchdown, man. I swear. So let's hope Danny Dimes sees it. I'm actually starting him in our dynasty league as my second quarterback because of Fields' concussion. So let's have a third straight awesome performance, Dimes. Moving over to Foxborough, where the Patriots are hosting the Steelers and Aaron Rodgers coming into town. Right now, the one thing the Steelers seem to be doing well is running the football, Jake. Patriots defense, though improved, still not quite where we want it to be. Jalen Warren's been a really, really pleasant surprise. They have Kenny Gainwell as their RB2 and Caleb Johnson right now because of that big error on the kickoff last week. I don't know that he's going to see many snaps, at least even in the backfield. So Jalen Warren to get into the end zone is even money. I am going to take that this week in that game.
Yeah, I like it. I actually went DK Metcalf here. Aaron Rodgers has actually been slinging the ball, I think, better than almost any of us expected this year for an almost 40-year-old quarterback, or maybe he is 40. He's at plus 170. I really like the price there. I think if a Steelers receiver is going to get in the end zone, DK is your most likely option. He's your best goal line option. So I like DK to get a touchdown this week.
I like it. My fantasy team would thoroughly appreciate that as well. The Eagles are at home taking on the Rams. This should be a really, really good game. I am surprised here, Jake. Maybe they are putting a lot of respect on the Rams defensive line. Maybe they have adjusted these prices because I don't know if you've seen midweek, the teams are complaining to the league that the Eagles tush push play is actually illegal because the offensive linemen not only are lined up off sides, but they actually move faster than the ball is snapped. So they're essentially jumping, false starting, and offsides on the same play. And that's what the league is noticing. So I don't know if the Rams are going to talk to the refs and be like, we need you to be watching this week. And there's going to be an added emphasis because, bro, Jalen Hurts anytime touchdown price right now on ESPN bets minus 115. Usually you're not finding that for a guy like Hurts. Tush push galore, loves to run the ball in. That price is incredible to me. And I feel like even if they're adjusting, I'm going to take Jalen Hurts at that price 10 out of 10 times. So give me Jalen Hurts still tush pushing his way in at minus 115.
Yeah, I have seen a lot of this online. Been a ton of complaints from people posting videos and both guards actually diving in before the football's moving. I don't really anticipate we're going to see a big crackdown on that. So I love the Jalen Hurts price. It'll probably come in the weeks ahead, but it's going the NFL. It's going to take them a little bit to actually make some impact or make a change there. So I went Puka Nacua here for this week. So I think the Eagles, like you said, are likely going to be leading most of this game. They are probably the better team here. They have a run first offense. I don't think Kyron is really going to be able to get going as much as he can in some weeks, just because this Eagles front is so strong. And so I really think that Stafford's going to be playing from behind, throwing the football. Puka's clearly been his number one option throughout the year. So I think he finds the end zone again this week.
Puka's got to be,
and he's actually at plus 155. Right?
He's got to be top 3 or top 5 so far in targets. Yeah, he's seeing so much volume right now to the detriment of people who drafted Devontae Adams right now, at least even. So I really like that. The one thing with Puka last year was even with all the volume, touchdowns were the one thing that never really came for him. I think he might have had like 3 or 4 all of last season. So you would think positive regression is going to be in his favor, specifically given that he's like a big, strong, physical receiver that you can get the ball basically any which way. So I do really like the pick, and I like the price as well, especially with
last week he gave us rushing touchdown as well, 45-yard rushing touchdown.
Yeah, exactly. So very, very,
So,
very, very possible to get the ball in a lot of different ways, right? So I like that. Let's go to Tampa Bay here, Jake, where the Jets are coming into town with no Justin Fields. He's concussed. He is out. Tyrod Taylor is starting. I am taking somebody on the home team here. Bucky Irving's been awesome while still potentially leaving something to be desired. The offensive running game, maybe not quite on the same page as it was so far last season to start the season. So I think they're going to get on track here. Bucky Irving only minus 125 to get in the end zone this week. Lead running back. I didn't like how much I saw of Rachaad White last week, but that's still not limiting the amount of touches Bucky Irving is getting. So at minus 125, your lead running back at home against the Jets, I'll take it all day long.
yep. And this is one we actually agree on here as well. So I went with Bucky Irving. I feel like the Jets are probably better on the outside with their DBs than they are interior. I think they may have a tougher time forcing the ball to Mike Evans or finding other receivers. Bucky's that consistent check down option. I think he may even get it in the receiving game. So I would even consider sprinkling on him in a receiving touchdown this week.
Ooh, I wonder if we could find better price for that. That would be awesome if we can. I don't hate that at all. My fantasy team would certainly not hate that. The Commanders are hosting the Raiders. Again, Jaden Daniels on the injury report. Not for sure if he's going to play this week, but he's a tough cookie. So he's probably going to toughen it out and potentially play. But I am looking at somebody on the Raiders. Man, their offense looked absolutely atrocious last week. So I'm expecting some adjustments for Geno and gang. Brock Bowers is a little bit hobbled, but another week of full practice. Hopefully he gets healthier. He's too good of a talent on that offense. He's too key of a weapon for them to be successful. I think he's going to find the end zone in his third week here. Brock Bowers at plus 130, Jake. I'm going to take him this game.
Yeah, and actually originally I had Jaden Daniels here. I feel less optimistic around that pick. I'm leaning a little bit more towards Genty getting in the end zone this week. Jaden, I think if he does play, he may still be a little bit hobbled. He's going to be less likely to want to run the football. Normally, that's a big part of his game, but I think he may play a little bit more conservative. So don't love him getting in the end zone this week. I'm going to lean Genty getting in the end zone.
I like that as well. I saw Daniels' price, and I think it might have been like north of plus 200. And I immediately was like, wow, that's a good price for him. But I think exactly what you were thinking. I think the books are under the assumption that that ankle or that lower leg injury is going to stop him from being able to be as mobile. So yeah, I don't love the ability to scramble and find the end zone. Although, again, he's a different beast, so he totally could do that.
Definitely could.
Panthers, Jake, your Panthers are going to be at home hosting the Falcons this week. I hate to do this pick, but this is similar reasoning to kind of why I liked Ray Davis. I think the Falcons are going to be able to run the football all over Carolina. Bijan should have an absolute field day, but I don't love his price. He's a little bit juicy on the anytime touchdown play. So give me Bijan Robinson's backup this week, Jake. Tyler Algier should get enough carries, potentially a goal line carry, stumbles into the end zone, plus 260. I don't hate the price.
Yeah, and I went Bijan here. I actually, for my personal bet, put in Bijan to score twice.
Yeah.
Just because I really think that he may just run all over us. So we really don't have the front seven to stop him in any capacity. So I really think they're going to be leading most of the game. I'm really hoping for a little bit more of a Bryce step up this game. We saw a good second half. So maybe some of the receivers could be in play, but I'm leaning on the safe side, expecting us to get blown out and going to take Bijan and sprinkled in him to score twice as well.
Yeah, honestly, that was going to be my initial pick as well. But the 2 touchdowns, I mean, again, it's I feel like Bijan to score twice is probably worse odds than Tyler Algier to score once. And so that's why I'm like, maybe they'll spell him because he's just doing so well and they're up so much that there's no reason to force him against the Panthers. So I like both plays. You could even potentially parlay Bijan for 2, Algier for 1. That could be fun. This one is so nasty, Jake. The Texans are traveling to Jacksonville to take on the Jaguars. I think this was by far my hardest game to pick an anytime touchdown scorer. So listen to this. I am taking the Houston Texans defense/special teams to find the end zone in this game. I think that this Jaguars offense is still not quite clicking. You saw what happened along the sidelines last week with Trevor Lawrence shooing off his head coach, Liam Cohen, and there was a little bit of hostility, it felt like there. Houston's defense is legit, man. Their defensive line is incredible with Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson on the outside. And obviously, with Derek Stingley being an absolute shutdown corner there, I don't know how a lot of teams are going to be able to move the ball on this against them or let alone score a ton of points. The Rams struggled to score 14 on them, I think. So I'm looking at the Jaguars offense that I just still don't totally buy. Brian Thomas Jr.'s hobbled. Travis Hunter's playing a little bit more defense. Travis Etienne seems like he's resurging, but I feel like it's more so just been matchup based. So that's why I am taking a flyer. This might be my most outlandish pick of the week, but Houston defense / special teams plus 500 feels like it should be a little bit better odds, but whatever. We'll take it.
Yeah, I like the play. I mean, I think Trevor Lawrence hasn't been playing his best. The receivers over there aren't really doing him any favors. I mean, Brian Thomas had some pretty bad drops so far this year. I can easily see him bobbling one. Stingley comes out of nowhere, and you get your defensive touchdown. I went Travis Etienne, actually, so I think he has started to really have a bounce-back season. It may be in the garbage time because I really don't think they're going to score a lot of points throughout the game. But I think this could easily be a game where you're seeing them down, 28-7, late game. Travis Etienne sneaks into the end zone in garbage time when it doesn't matter.
Those are some of my best and my favorite plays that smack or when that helps in fantasy, right? Because think about it. If we don't have bets on the game, or if we're not in fantasy football, if a team's up like 28-7 in the fourth quarter, we don't have any incentive to continue to watch that game, right? But in this situation, let's say you take Travis Etienne, we're going to be watching that game till that's clock. It's 0-0-0 with the hopes that he's going to get a garbage touchdown. And again, a lot of fantasy points and a lot of touchdowns come in garbage time. So I actually really like that pick. And he's good value for being their number one running back and with how good he's looked so far this year.
I also have no trust in the Jaguars receivers to get around these DBs and get in the end zone. So I just feel like I had to go outside of the receiver group.
I like it, man. The LA Chargers have looked awesome so far. They are hosting the Denver Broncos. Sean Payton comes into town to take on Jim Harbaugh and gang. I am taking Mr. Justin Herbert, who looks phenomenal through 2 games. And I think the biggest thing that I've noticed about him is how much more mobile he is choosing to be. He is running the ball a lot more effectively. He's deciding a lot quicker. You're seeing the edges kind of break at him, and he's immediately rushing right up the middle. So he's utilizing those legs that we've known he's used early in his career. I think last year when he was a little bit hobbled, he just wasn't running as much, took away a ton of fantasy value from him because it didn't open up a lot of the pass game deep because he wasn't creating out of structure. And again, I think that really limited his fantasy upside. This year, 2 games in, he's a fantasy monster. He's using his legs. He's right now making 3 wide receivers fantasy relevant, which is insane. He's making Quentin Johnston fantasy relevant. I didn't think I'd ever hear or say those words in my life. So I think it's pretty incredible what he's doing. So give me Justin Herbert to scramble into the end zone at plus 350.
Yeah. I really like the way he's fit into that offense as well. I think and obviously Herbert's a more accomplished quarterback today, but just for analogy purposes, I really see him fitting into that J.J. McCarthy role at Michigan, where he's now starting to figure out how Harbaugh's offense runs, how he can be most successful. Harbaugh's a very smart coach, and so you can see that Herbert's bought more into the system. That's actually a big reason I kind of am going towards Hampton this week as my anytime touchdown scorer. I think even though Herbert's having an unbelievable season, Harbaugh at heart loves to run the football. I think that's going to be a lot more open because of the way Herbert is throwing the football right now. A lot of teams were probably planning to stack the box against the Chargers coming into this year a little bit more. Now that's not as much of an option with Quentin Johnston actually catching the football. You have Ladd, that's a huge threat on the outside. I think Hampton's finally going to get one this week. I think he finds the end zone.
I have been very disappointed in Omarion Hampton. And I will say, out of all the running back prospects, he's the one that I kind of just didn't understand as much as everybody else hyped him up as the clear RB2 behind Ginty. I don't know, man. I like, there's definitely physical attributes to like, but I don't love the way his vision really plays onto the field. It doesn't seem like he has the best vision. He doesn't have the best patience. So we'll see. We'll see if that comes with a little bit of time. He's still incredibly young as a rookie. And I drafted him in one of my leagues, so I am still hopeful that he's going to bounce back. So I like it. I like it against the Broncos. The Seahawks are hosting the New Orleans Saints, a team that is playing a lot better than I anticipated coming into the season. I thought they were just tanking, clear cut, going to play for the number 1 seed. And lo and behold, man, Spencer Rattler looks a lot better than some starting quarterbacks in the NFL. I won't mention names because I think that would just hurt my feelings and maybe yours. So he has looked pretty decent, and I think he's supporting Alvin Kamara. He's supporting Juwan Johnson. I don't know how consistently, but he's trying to support Chris Olave. But this is a game that I think the Seahawks are going to be able to run the football effectively. It is at home in Seattle, so that 12th man against Spencer Rattler and gang, I just think is going to be a huge, huge role. And right now, the early forecast points to rain. So if there is a ton of rain and it's Sam Darnold, I expect them to run the football. I like the price for both running backs. Ken Walker's minus 120, Zach Charbonnet's plus 140. Right now, I am in such a blender with deciding who to start on a weekly basis. It seems like it's teeter-tottering. Sometimes one guy plays, sometimes one guy plays more. And I don't know if it's truly just kind of the hot hand situation. So that's why it makes it difficult, one, to decide who to start, and two, to decide who to bet on. The value tells me that Charbonnet at plus 140 is just a little bit better value. But I'm not going to lie to you, I still think Ken Walker is the better running back. So it's like, do I bet on the talent of the guy I think is better, or do I bet on the guy that is priced better? So I don't think you can go wrong. I may end up just betting on both of them. I think you could get a rushing touchdown from each of them. This could be a really, really big rushing game where the Seahawks run for north of 200 yards. So give me Ken Walker and Sharps, I guess.
Yeah, this is my issue every single week, having to decide between the two in our redraft league. So Walker played really well for me, but yeah, it's that give and take of I have no idea if Walker's going to have 3 touches or 15. So
yeah.
I went Juwan Johnson here. So
I love that.
I love that. Yeah, a lot of what you said. Plus 385. I feel like that's a ton of value for Rattler's really first option. I mean, well, Kamara, but with Kamara's going to be running the football quite a bit, especially if they're in a rainy game. I think if they're seeing rain, he's more likely to be throwing a lot more checkdowns. Juwan Johnson's going to live in that space, and if they get into the red zone, it's going to be him or Kamara. And I like Juwan Johnson's price a lot better here.
Yeah, that's a great price. He's a big slot. He's basically just a giant receiver, in a tight end position, if you will, but he plays big slots. So I really, really like the usage there. He's somebody that I picked up in fantasy, and I feel like I'm going to start him every week. And I think if you have him in fantasy, he's somebody at this point that you have to deploy every week. Yeah. Bears, Cowboys. I think this is one of the bigger over-unders on the week. Might be the highest total we have. I'm expecting a ton of points. The Bears cannot stop a soul, Jake. The Bears cannot stop anybody. Jalen Johnson, their star-studded corner, is out for season. That alone tells me that if there's one guy that's due to get into the end zone that has not gotten in the end zone yet, that is their best player, it is going to be CeeDee Lamb. This guy gets funneled so many targets, and I don't believe he's found the end zone yet, right? I don't want to misspeak. You have him. Yeah, he has not found the end zone yet. I think this is going to be the week, whether it's a jet sweep. Keep that in mind. They loved running jet sweeps with CeeDee Lamb. I think he got like almost one a game every week last year. This could be one of those games where if he's not catching a touchdown, I could see a jet sweep reverse end around touchdown. But CeeDee Lamb at plus 112 against this horrible, horrible Bears defense, I'll take it all day long.
Yeah, he's really due. I mean, he's getting 10, 12 targets a game. It's about time for him to find the end zone. Bears seem like the perfect team for him to find the end zone. I went Javonte Williams here. So he's having an incredible year for the Cowboys, already up to touchdowns in both games. I think he's going to continue the streak. He's clearly become the feature back. We really haven't seen Blue play at all just because he's been out with injury so far. I'm not sure if he's back this week. I think the last I checked, he's actually still listed as out this week. Tim and Miles Sanders. Miles Sanders really hasn't been very impressive other than maybe one run in that first game. I expect Williams to continue to get a heavy workload here. And they'll probably be running the ball a little bit more than you'd expect because I think they're going to, despite the Cowboys having a bad defense, I still think they're going to beat the Bears pretty bad.
Let's go to the San Francisco 49ers. They're hosting the Arizona Cardinals this week, divisional round. It is going to be another week of Mac Jones, I believe. That's what I thought before we started recording. And then there was a report that came out that there is hope that Brock Purdy could play this week. So whether he plays or not, it doesn't really factor into my anytime touchdown bet here. I'm just going to take James Conner. The 49ers defense isn't the same 49ers defense. They are benefiting from having the easiest strength of schedule. The Cardinals defense, on the other hand, is pretty damn good. Their offense has been a little bit underwhelming, as seems to be with Kyler Murray led offenses for the last 3-4 years. But the one constant, the one consistent force on this team is James Conner. He's minus 104. The one thing I will say, Jake, is it does scare me a little bit how much Trey Benson is starting to slowly eat into his workload. As a Trey Benson owner in Dynasty, it makes me happy. But as a potential James Conner better for this game in an anytime touchdown role, it does scare me a little bit, but I still think in the goal line situation, they're going to go with the reliable James Conner at minus 104. I like it. So that's what I'm taking.
Yeah, this one was tough for me. I really didn't like very many of the Cardinals players. I don't really love Marvin Harrison to find the end zone. I'm not a big fan of Trey McBride finding the end zone. He just hasn't done it on a consistent enough basis. I hate the price, love the player. I went with Christian McCaffrey here. 49ers offense is beaten down pretty significantly. If they're going to be scoring points, he's really going to be one of the 2 or 3 options that they have to get in the end zone. So don't love the price at minus 190, but I'd probably try to fit it in a parlay somewhere. And I do think he finds the end zone this week.
Yeah, I mean, you could even do like a CMC Bijan, 2 juicy plays, parlay those. Pretty surefire players if you've ever seen. So I don't hate that
I have
at
a
all.
parlay with McCaffrey and Bijan and one other player that's coming up here in just a bit, already locked in.
Baby.
So.
Oh, baby. I love the sound of that. I might have to tail that parlay. Let's round these off. Sunday Night Football, the Chiefs are traveling to New York to take on the Giants. Jake, I'm going to take Isaiah Pacheco. He's been incredibly underwhelming so far this season, but the Giants, although they have a great defensive line, not been the best against the run, at least for running backs and fantasy points. So Isaiah Pacheco's plus 140 this week. I don't love the usage. I don't love as much as I've seen of Kareem Hunt. I don't love as much as I've seen of Brashard Smith, but I think this is a good bounce back spot for Isaiah Pacheco, at least to find the end zone. The Chiefs are 0-2, man. They're traveling to New York. They need to win this football game. I think they're going to try to establish the run because they don't have a ton of weapons on the outside. Pacheco's been that guy. He doesn't look great, but based on the price and the matchup, I'm going to take a flyer on Isaiah Pacheco here.
I like it. This one kind of similar to where I was looking with the Daniel Jones of him getting outside the pocket. I really like Patrick Mahomes to find the end zone. I think this offense is really struggling. They have a lot of receivers that are down right now. Mahomes is just that dude. And I think he's the kind of guy that if he needs to go and get it himself, he's going to. He's done it already a few times this season, I believe. I know he has at least one. But I think with the Giants defensive line, they are going to be getting a lot of interior pressure, probably forcing Mahomes out earlier than he wants to. I don't think he has a lot of trust for the receiver group right now. So I think there's a good chance that he just decides to take it himself if he's inside the 5-10 yard line. And plus 365.
That's a great price. What I was going to say is 2 weeks in, I think both weeks I've cashed his rushing parlay for rushing yards over because the dude's scrambling a lot. So I do really, really like that price a lot.
Great for
Monday night.
Team.
Yeah, no, that definitely helps. It seems like, again, 2 weeks in, but the Mahomes resurgence for at least for fantasy could definitely be
potential steal of the draft there.
Yeah, absolutely. Monday Night Football. Let's end the anytime touchdown bets. The Lions are traveling to Baltimore to take on the Ravens. I am hitting another juicy, not necessarily juicy, actually. I'm hitting another long shot bet here. DeAndre Hopkins has found the end zone already. He's plus 365. I'm expecting the Lions to put up points. The Ravens have not stopped the Bills. The Bills scored a lot of points. The Ravens defense seems a little bit susceptible, and maybe the Lions found some juice last week, putting up 51 on the Bears. I know it was the Bears, but 51 points should give you a little bit of confidence. Again, they're going to have to throw the football a lot. They're going to play from behind a lot. I'm expecting scoring back and forth. The Lions front is good. So, Derrick Henry could easily find the end zone. He's just juicy. Lamar Jackson doesn't scramble, at least in the red zone, as much as I'd like him to. DeAndre Hopkins, size, it seems like he gets limited usage, but where he does get used is the red zone. And because of his size, his hands, I still think Lamar's going to look for him because his other number one option is 5'10" and Zay Flowers. So give me DeAndre Hopkins at plus 365.
Perfect. I went Derrick Henry. So this is the third leg of my parlay of the juicy ones here. I think he's going to have a huge bounce back game. I mean, had probably the worst game he's had that I can remember in the last decade. So I'm really expecting him to bounce back this week. I think he's going to score at least once. Lions gave up a touchdown to Josh Jacobs, although the front isn't bad at all. But I think Derrick Henry's best running back in the game, in my opinion, especially near the end zone. And I think he's going to find the end zone again.
Yeah, absolutely. I like it. How can you hate a bet on Derrick Henry? He's one of the best players of all time.
Yeah.
All right. That was very, very long-winded anytime touchdown bet. But that's what happens when you have two people and you want to talk so much. So we will officially move over to start sits. Jake, let's kick it off. First on the board, Jaden Daniels versus the Las Vegas Raiders or Daniel Jones at the Titans. I'll let you start us off. Who are you starting here and who are you sitting?
Might be crazy, but I think I would lean towards Daniel Jones this week. With Jaden, I just don't feel confident, like I said earlier, with his health. A big part of Jaden Daniels' effectiveness, he can really throw the football phenomenal in the pocket as well. But if he has ankle issues, that can also affect the throwing. If it's on plant feet, what that looks like. I just think Jaden may not quite be himself this week, and they know it's a Raiders team that they can probably beat, and so they're going to be more comfortable just running the ball, taking checkdowns. Whereas Daniel Jones, divisional matchup, he's looked phenomenal. I don't really think the Titans defense is that great, so I think he has a good opportunity to really put up points, and I would go Daniel Jones.
Yeah, I actually also lean Daniel Jones, as crazy as that sounds, simply because of that situation. We don't know how healthy Jane Daniels is, and much of his value comes from his legs. The other aspect of this that's concerning is if he's not as healthy and he can't scramble as much. Max Crosby looked like a possessed man last week, and Max Crosby is going to be able to get to Jane Daniels if Jane Daniels can't scramble out of the pocket. And so I just think there's going to be, if the offensive line has any issues at all, I think that the Raiders front is going to be able to get to them. And I think that's also going to limit Jaden's ability to wait in the pocket and try to throw those bombs to Terry McLaurin that he loves to do. So I am also leaning Daniel Jones, although I am a little bit hesitant that Daniel Jones is going to have a slight step back from the first 2 weeks. I do think the Titans front is actually pretty good. So I think there is an area for regression for Daniel Jones, but I don't know that either guy is going to have a great game, but I do also lean Daniel Jones there. Chuba Hubbard taking on the Falcons. Jake, your Chuba Hubbard, or Omarion Hampton taking on the Broncos. I'm going to lean Chuba here. I think Chuba has been fantastic. The Falcons, they're a good defense, but they're not incredible. Jordan Mason was still able to run on them. Bucky Irving was still able to get fantasy points on them in week 1. The Broncos are a good defense. Omarion Hampton has had a costly fumble. Najee Harris is also slowly getting into the fold. So I know you love Omarion Hampton to find a touchdown this week. So maybe you start and you lean him there. But I just think from a workload perspective, it's still Chuba. It's all Chuba for the Panthers. And I think just based on usage and volume alone, plus he's catching passes. So if they are down, he's still going to get checked down. So I'm taking Chuba all day long.
Yep, I actually still agree with you. I think Hampton's going to have a good week. I don't think you're going wrong in either direction here. But yeah, I completely agree with you. It's the volume for me. I mean, Hampton, there are a lot of mouths to feed over there with the Chargers. Panthers have very few. It's Chuba and T-Mac. So I think Chuba likely could find the end zone as well this week. If we're able to get on the board, he's our most likely candidate to do so. So I would lean Chuba as well just for the volume. But I think Hampton's also a fine start this week.
What about Chase Brown? The Bengals, Chase Brown running back taking on the Vikings in Minnesota, or do you go Jaylen Warren, Steelers running back? He's going to be traveling to New England.
This is tough. I don't love Chase Brown's situation right now. With Burrow being out, Browning taking over at quarterback. I'm also concerned about this from a T. Higgins perspective. But Jaylen Warren, also the Patriots aren't terrible on the defensive front. They have some good pieces there. I think that could be a pretty low scoring game overall. I would probably still lean Jaylen Warren, actually. I think the Vikings have a really good defense. I don't know what he's going to look like with Browning. I don't love Jaylen Warren either this week, just because I think this is probably going to be a lower scoring game. But as a Chase Brown owner, I'm not very optimistic in Chase Brown right now.
I think their outputs are going to be pretty similar, but I think the way it's going to look, it's going to be different, right? I think Chase Brown, last week was on the field for 87% of snaps or something ridiculous. So he's basically their only guy. That is one nice thing when you're starting Chase Brown. Jaylen Warren definitely, splits carries with Kenneth Gainwell. And we talked about the rookie Caleb Johnson. Eventually he's going to get some work because they drafted him. So I think what could ultimately happen is Jaylen Warren, less usage, finds the end zone. Chase Brown, all usage, maybe doesn't find the end zone, but he's used so much that he's naturally going to give you a safe floor. I also actually personally, I have to follow my philosophy and lean Chase Brown just because volume is king. He's going to be on the field more. He's going to get more work, but the matchup does tell me that Jaylen Warren should actually have a better output. I just think it's going to be pretty close. So I am going to lean Chase Brown, but I don't think either play is going to be terrible. It's just not going to be an awesome day for either guy. AJ Brown, Jake, has been a massive disappointment. I would know. I have him in fantasy in 2 leagues. AJ Brown versus the Rams, or are you starting Jacoby Myers, who I'm pretty sure I saw a stat that after week 4 of last year, Jacoby Myers is a top 10 wide receiver in fantasy football. Don't quote me on those exact numbers, but it's something ridiculous like that. Constantly undervalued, constantly overlooked. Jacoby Myers is traveling to Washington to take on the Commanders. Would you start him, or would you start AJ Brown versus the Rams?
Honestly, I'm probably going Jacoby Myers here. I don't trust Philadelphia to throw the football enough. I don't doubt A.J. Brown's talent. I think the talent's there, and I think he's an elite receiver in the league. but I don't trust Jalen Hurts' ability to get him the football enough. They are a run-heavy offense. It's going to be a lot of Saquon. It's going to be a lot of Hurts. I would probably have to go Jacoby Myers at this point just because I think he is the primary target outside of maybe Brock Bowers. So I would probably lean Jacoby Myers, but I would hate to be the person that benches A.J. Brown when he goes off. So if I had him on my team, I'd probably be starting A.J. Brown.
I share the exact same sentiment, right? Like being the guy that benches AJ Brown after he had 2 dud weeks to start the season, when you're just playing like law of averages and probability, right? He's bound to have a big game, but what can't go unnoticed and ignored is the consistency of Jacoby Myers all the way to last season, right? This is the classic. If you give this to somebody who's, maybe more of a common fan, you're going to look at the names and the name value. It's not even close, right? AJ Brown, he's like a top 5 talent in the NFL at the wide receiver position. Jacoby Myers just isn't. But from a fantasy standpoint, statistical output, it's Jacoby Myers, sadly. So I don't have Jacoby Myers, thankfully, in either of my leagues that have AJ Brown. So I don't have to make this decision. I'm still going to have to start AJ Brown, and whether I like it or hate it. But if I am this person making this choice, the numbers tell me you have to start Jacoby Myers, whether you like what your lineup looks like, whether you like the projection numbers that they show you, like ignore all of that. Start Jacoby Myers. We're starting two of three of these guys here, Jake. Cortland Sutton at the Chargers, Jameson Williams at Baltimore, Keon Coleman at the Dolphins. I think if I am starting these players, I am starting Cortland Sutton versus the Chargers, and I'm starting Jameson Williams versus the Ravens. I like Keon Coleman a lot. I just think that the Dolphins are really, really bad. They don't need Keon. The Bills don't need Keon Coleman to do anything. He could have 0 catches and they could still win this game by 40, right? So he is an accessory. He is just a benefit, a plus. He's not necessary. I think for the Ravens and the Lions need to hit Jameson Williams on at least one deep play if they want to have any chance at staying in this game, right? So he is their biggest home run threat. Sure, he's a boom bust, but I think he has to boom this game if the Lions want any shot at beating the Ravens. So you're going to play that, in my opinion. And Cortland Sutton against the Chargers, divisional game, right? Chargers are 2-0, Broncos are 1-1. I mean, this is going to be a Sean Payton versus Jim Harbaugh, just a slugfest. And I think you're going to rely on your number 1 target here. So Bo Nix is going to need to find Cortland Sutton if the Broncos are going to want to have any success against the Chargers. So I'm going to go Sutton and JMO here.
Yep, I think Sutton, like you said, it's the volume. He's going to get more volume than probably either of these other two. So I think he's a must start out of those two. The other two are both a little bit boom bust for me. But the way I look at it is who's going to boom higher when they have those boom games. I believe that's Jameson Williams. Keon Coleman, he has some boom games, but Jameson Williams is the guy that can, have 2 catches for 150 yards and 2 touchdowns. He can have those really explosive games.
Yes, situationally, Keon Coleman's not taking a 2-yard slant to the house, right? So he's going to need like a deep bomb into the end zone, or he's going to need like a fade in the goal line to even find the end zone. JMO can take a screen, he can take a slant, he can take a drag to the end zone, and that's one play. So definitely the definition of boom bust, but I agree. I'm taking Sutton JMO there. But so starting 3 of 4 here, Jake. Brian Thomas Jr. versus the Texans, Jalen Waddle at the Bills, Devontae Smith versus the Rams, or Marvin Harrison Jr. at San Francisco. Boy, oh boy, that's a bunch of gross receivers. I'm going to let you start 3 first.
Yeah, do we have to pick 3 of these? No, I mean, all of these are on my list of folks that I would struggle to start. Waddle, I think they're going to be playing from behind. There could be some benefit there that they're going to be passing the ball a lot. I don't really trust Tua all that much. I think A-Chain's going to get a lot of those touches. Tyreek's going to be the next option after that. But Waddle is also kind of another player that can house one for you at any time. So in a game where they're playing the Bills, there could be down big. He could slip out, end up getting a big touchdown. I'd probably put Waddle in the group. I'm not ready to give up on Brian Thomas Jr. yet. He'd probably have to be in that group for me as well. Hasn't had the best set of games, and it is the Texans. But I just think I like his volume share a little bit better than what I'm going to get out of Devonta Smith. I just, again, don't trust Eagles receivers, especially the second option right now. And Marvin Harrison Jr., I just have been really unimpressed so far. I probably wouldn't be starting him very often.
Yeah, I mean, considering that out of these three, we'd have to start Smith or Marvin Harrison Jr. if our goal is to start BTJ or Waddle. I think I'm starting Marvin Harrison Jr., dude. I think, right, like you said, Jalen Hurts, I think, had 115 passing yards or something ridiculous last week. If A.J. Brown, a physical freak, a speed demon, a 50-50 ball catcher, all of that, he has no weaknesses. If he is not getting any volume, why on earth would we start the next receiver in that offense who is like a 5'10", 185 pounds, right? Like there's less usage for Devontae Smith if AJ Brown isn't even getting work. So right now, Devontae Smith, it's crazy. But like if you're in a league that has small benches, Devontae Smith is borderline droppable. And again, I think that's wild to say because of his talent. But I think right now they don't throw the football enough. They have an easier schedule. They're going to continue to pile up wins just running the ball. And when they need to throw, it seems like they love Jahan Dotson for some reason. They love throwing it to Dallas Goedert for some reason. So right now, these star receivers just aren't getting it done. So yes, Waddle, game script. BTJ, he's just really fast and really good. So it's hard to give up on him right now. And Marvin Harrison Jr., San Francisco's defense is pretty beat up. So like you just have to figure if you're going to start Smith or Marvin Harrison Jr., I lean Marvin Harrison Jr. So I think out of those four, you're benching Devonta Smith.
I agree.
Starting 2 of 4 here, Zay Flowers versus the Lions, Emeka Egbuka versus the Jets, Javonte Williams at the Bears, or Garrett Wilson at Tampa Bay. So we're only starting 2 here. A lot better options than the last one, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Emeka's a must start for me right now. He's just playing far too well for me to say to bench him. I don't love Wilson this week, so I would probably lean more towards Javonte Williams and Emeka as my 2 starters here. I trust Zay as well, but they're still a very run-heavy offense. I think they're probably going to be up in this game. It could be a shootout, but I would probably lean more towards Williams and Emeka here for my 2.
Yeah, I agree with you. Garrett Wilson is going to be playing with Tyrod Taylor this week, no Justin Fields. So that's already something you have to factor into the equation. Zay Flowers, similar situation to like some other players, right? He's really good, but they don't need him to win. He is also an accessory because they run the football so effectively. So he'll have games where he catches 8 or 9 balls for 120 yards, but then he'll also have games where he'll catch like 4 passes for 24 yards. And so it's just a situation where he's not enough of a focal point on the offense. And Emeka right now is a must start because of the usage. Godwin's still not back. And like you said, Javonte is an early candidate for steal of the draft, and the Bears defense stinks. So how can you not start Javonte? So I agree. Emeka and Javonte there for me. Those are the start sits, Jake. Real quick, let's run through our booms and our busts. My boom this week, pretty straightforward, man. I'm not sugarcoating this. CeeDee Lamb. He was my touchdown scorer prediction. I think he's going to have a phenomenal day. I think George Pickens, I think Javonte Williams, all could absolutely eat, which means Dak Prescott's probably going to eat. So I'm expecting the Cowboys to put up 4 or 5 touchdowns this week against this Bears defense that looks absolutely atrocious. CeeDee Lamb's going to find the end zone. He's going to have 100 yards. He is my absolute boom this week. Who do you have?
I like Jordan Mason. So I'm taking one of your Vikings. Carson Wentz being inserted into the offense. I think that KOC is probably going to slow roll him out a little bit. He's been with the team, but he hasn't had a lot of snaps with the ones up until this week. JJ's really been filling that role. I think they're going to lean heavily on Jordan Mason. He's going to get a heavy workload. And I don't really think the Bengals defense is that good. So I think he's going to be able to have a lot of volume here. And I also have him to score a touchdown. So that'll just add on to the fantasy points for him.
Hell yeah, I love it. Nothing we need more than Jordan Mason to just run all over the Bengals and limit how much Carson Wentz has to throw the football. I would love that. My bust this week, Jake, is going to be Quentin Johnston. He is taking on the Denver Broncos. Stop if you've heard this before. QJ had an awesome first 2 weeks. Everybody's probably just dying to throw this man in their lineups. Absolutely dying, right? Stop it. Just absolutely stop it. He's done this before. Maybe he's improved. Maybe the offense as a whole is improved. But what are we forgetting here is there are 2 receivers on this offense that can get open every single play. They get open at will. Ladd McConkey is open every single play if Justin Herbert's looking his way. Did you forget? Keenan Allen is back. Keenan Allen is old Ladd McConkey, basically. He is open on every single play if Herbert looks his way. So by process of elimination, Quentin Johnston is now your 3rd option on offense basically every single time. The thing that works in his favor, the reason he's having success is because of the fact that these 2 guys get open so much, right? But here's where it's different this week. if there's one player that Patrick Surtain is going to potentially shadow, it's going to be QJ because he's going to play on the perimeter, and that's the only place he plays, right? So that gives PS2 the ability to just stay on one side. They move McConkey around, they move Keenan Allen around, but they don't necessarily move QJ around. So this could be a QJ against PS2. Denver's no joke as a whole. And so I just think this is a week where everybody probably benched Quentin Johnson week 1 and 2, right? Who the hell started him? But now you're seeing all these points on your bench. Now you've just picked him up and you're seeing all these points that he didn't get to put in your lineup. So everyone's just going to be itching to start him. I think he has an absolute bust written all over him this week.
Yeah. I went Garrett Wilson here. So, Justin Fields out this week, Tyrod Taylor taking over. I know he can sling the football. But Tampa has done a really good job of locking down number 1 wide receivers so far this year. They gave Drake London a lot of trouble in week 1. Nico Collins, outside of the touchdown, really did not have the most effective game on Monday night either. So they've done a very good job of locking up top wide receiver options. I think Garrett Wilson's really going to struggle. I think he was still projected to be like 13, 14 fantasy points. I don't see him going over 10 this week. I think it might be like a 6, 7. I mean, Drake London, I think, had 4 against the Tampa defense.
Sheesh.
So I think Garrett Wilson is somebody I would strongly consider benching if you have a good option to replace him with.
Yeah, absolutely. The chemistry for Garrett Wilson was all Justin Fields, right? The Ohio State connection, all that stuff. So Tyrod Taylor, I mean, again, like you said, he can get the job done, but I don't see a world where he's putting up enough stats to support another player in fantasy, let alone himself. And I think this can be a game where the offense is going to struggle quite a bit. They're going to try to establish the run. Who knows if they'll be successful, but I like that pick. I like that pick a lot. Hidden gems, defenses, and kicker. My hidden gem defense this week. Sorry, Jake. It's the Falcons. They're taking on the Carolina Panthers. I mean, here's what we saw from Atlanta last week. This pass rush is incredible. They drafted 2 edge rushers in the first round. They drafted one, traded back into the first round, drafted another one. And right now it looks like an absolute home run. Now pair that with the fact that I think the Carolina Panthers are coming into this week down 2 offensive linemen now. And so if they are in fact playing anybody on the line that is a backup or is not sufficient, Atlanta is going to have an absolute field day with Bryce Young. So I'm expecting 4 to 5 sacks at least. Bryce Young has, I think, 3 interceptions already and 2 fumbles lost. So again, it's just a situation that is not advantageous for the Panthers, super advantageous for the Falcons. The Falcons were a streaming option. They're actually available in over 50% of leagues. So that is definitely somebody you can go out and get. I'm sure a lot of people grabbed them just because they're taking on the Panthers, but that is one that I absolutely love. I don't know if they're so hidden because they're taking on the Panthers, but that is my hidden gem this week.
Nice. I went a little bit of a different direction with not a great defense. I just kind of like the matchup. So I went with the Colts here against the Titans, divisional matchup. I think the Titans are still trying to figure out that offense. Cam Ward still doesn't look very comfortable. He's had some really good throws, but they're only rostered in 14% of leagues right now. So they're going to be widely available. I think if you're looking for a team to just pick up, plug and play starts, a divisional game, you usually see tougher, less scoring in some of those divisional matchups. I think the Colts could be a great option if you're looking for a defense this week.
Yeah, and against a rookie quarterback, right? So third ever start still, so you definitely like that. The Colts have looked really good, man, so I do like that. Speaking of the Colts, my hidden gem kicker is, in fact, the Colts kicker, Spencer Schrader. This guy has been incredible. He is only rostered in 7% of sleeper leagues so far. He is the kicker 1. He's had 17 and 19 points. He's had 4 field goals made and 5 field goals made the first 2 weeks. Think about this. Danny Dimes has shown the ability to move the football. If he's not doing it with his passing, he can do it with his legs. I think the Colts have the ability to move the football up and down the field. Whether they struggle in the red zone against this defense now, that remains to be seen. And I think that, in fact, tells me that there's the opportunity for them to kick a ton of field goals. So the Titans defense, I still think, is a little bit underrated. But I do think the Colts are going to be able to move the football. Schrader has shown that he has no weakness in terms of how far he can kick, even though he hasn't had to kick a 50-yarder yet because their offense has been so good. I don't think they punted yet. So he hasn't had to kick very far away. I think the Titans could present some challenges to the offense, but that's not going to stop them from moving the ball enough to get this guy attempts. Dude, 4 for 4 and 5 for 5. He's the kicker 1 in all of fantasy football, only rostered in 7% of leagues. Go pick this guy up. He is going to absolutely boom.
I went Matt Prater here for the Bills. I expect them to put up a lot of points on the Dolphins. This could be a game where they're hanging in the 40s or even high 40s. He's only rostered in 41% of leagues, so about 50-50, but he's been perfect on the year. 5 for 5 extra points, 6 for 6 on his field goals. if the Dolphins can have him stall out some, he's somebody that's very consistent. He's going to consistently hit field goals. I think he's probably going to have another double-digit week. It may even be 5 or 6 extra points this week. So.
Yeah, I was just going to say he could easily have 5 extra points and then just kick 150-yarder. Boom, you got 10 points. So very possible. I like having kickers on really good teams that, are going to move the football because it just gives you more opportunities. So I like it. Guy they just picked up off the street who's like 42 years old now or something. So Prater's pretty old, but still getting the job done. That is it, man. That is all we have this week for you guys. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I know we ran a little bit long, but it's what happens when you have another person on the podcast and you want to shoot the shit. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Hit the like, hit the subscribe if you're watching. You're watching on YouTube. Socials, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok at The Only Playbook. I am Sweetcar. That is my Twitter handle. This is Jake Flinchum. Hopefully he's back again. I would like to have you back a little bit more frequently, Jake, if you wanted to come on, and that way we can, continue to do a lot more previews and make some more money with some anytime touchdown bets, man.
Absolutely. It was a great time. Thanks for having me. Happy to be back anytime.
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Let's win your fantasy weeks. Let's smash all of these anytime touchdown bets. I am Sweetcar. Again, that is Jake. See you guys next week.